All right, welcome back to class. I trust we had a nice break. In this section, we're going to be looking at project planning. Remember I said after we're done with the value, the project management performance system.
I've missed all the.
All right. Sorry for that noise from the person that the mic was not muted. So I said earlier in the morning that after we are done with the project management principles and value delivery system, we're going to come back to the project planning, then looking at creating budget, creating scope, and then managing timelines. And that's what we're going to be doing in this few minutes we have. So the ones who might not be able to handle today, we might return back tomorrow. And then we'll have to try and use some of the templates that we already have to make sure that the information is driven home. Okay. All right. So we start with project planning. These sections are quite short because they're more of like summary of everything we've been discussing since we started the section. So they're quite short sections, but much more practical dimensions. All right, so please kindly confirm that you can hear me. If you can hear me loud and clear, please kindly type 1 in the chat. If you can hear me loud and clear, please kindly. All right, thank you so much for hearing me. Okay. Is there only one person that is hearing me? If there's another person that can hear me, please kindly type 111. Type 11 in the chat room. If you can hear me loud and clear, please type 11 in the chat room. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. So we'll quickly look at project planning, and I would like us to pay attention here. From this section, I would like us to pay very rapt attention. In case there is something you don't get, please just ask us so that we will provide all the answers that will be helpful to you. Project planning. Project planning. Now, project planning is detailed planning to ensure that the activities in the execution phase of the project are properly sequenced, resourced, executed, and controlled. It is a means of defining and refining objectives and selecting the best of the alternative courses of action to attain the objective that the project was undertaken to address. Note, brainstorming is a very important tool for effective project planning. Now, this is where I want us to pay attention to. This is where I want us to pay attention because the whole sequence of operation in project planning are captured here. Okay, the whole sequence of operation in project planning are captured here. Okay, someone say my screen is still. So please, if you could see the sequence of project planning screen, please do let me know. If you could see the screen, please do let me know. If the screen is still, let me know. If the screen has moved, let me know. All right. Okay. Okay, so if you look at what we have here, the first thing in project planning is to create a project plan. A project plan, in this case, will connote the activities that need to be done. So if you remember the first classwork we did, or one of the first classworks we did, was to have an Excel where the work breakdown structure is broken down. All right. So when we have a work plan, it gives us, or the project plan gives us the activities that need to be done, the phases of the work first, the activities that need to be done, then the schedule when they are to be done and who does them. That's principally what the project plan tells us. Then you have the resource plan that gives us information about both the material and non-material resources, human and non-human resources needed for the work, and how these resources will be assigned to the tasks. That's the resource plan. How the resources will be procured, how much this will cost, you have them in your resource plan. Then you have your financial plan. How money will come in and how money will go out. You have your financial flow, the cash flow, your financial plan, how money comes in and how money goes out. Then you have your quality plan. Okay, that tells you what levels of quality that need to be involved in the project product. Okay, you also need to know. Then you have your risk plan to tell you all of the risks associated with the project. And then you have your acceptance plan. What do we do, or how do we accept the deliverable at the end of the day? What are the requirements for acceptance of the project? We get to have that under the acceptance plan. Then we have the communication plan. How will communication be done? How do we engage stakeholders? How do we communicate with stakeholders? At what frequency do we communicate with stakeholders and all of that? Then you have your procurement plan. How will materials be purchased? How will human beings be hired? And all of the things that has to do with procurement. They have the contract suppliers, the relationship you have with the contract supplier. How do you manage contractors? How do you manage suppliers? Okay. And then you perform a phase review before moving to the next phase of the program. So this is typically what the whole project planning is all about. Okay, this is the sequence of what the whole project plan is all about. Now, quickly, developing a project plan. Identify, create, and agree on a work breakdown structure, a hierarchical set of phases, sequenced activity, and tasks to be undertaken on the project. The WBS is accomplished by defining the scope of the project and breaking the work down into components that can be scheduled, estimated, and easily monitored and controlled. Also, resources to each activity and task, and assemble detailed project schedule. So allocate resources rather to each activity and task, and assemble detailed project schedule. So if you look at what we have here on project plan, if we go back to that assignment we did, we'll find that it's just a typical example of a project plan. Okay, you have your activities, you have your start time, your finish time, you have your cost. Okay, talking of the project plan we developed using the triple constraints, right? Then the resource plan will involve detailed resource allocation and assessment to identify types of resources, whether human, non-human, equipment, materials, total quantities of each resource type, roles, responsibilities, and skill sets of human resources, and then items, purposes, and specification of equipment resource. So these are the things that we have in the resource plan. So this particular lecture is just to provide us with a guide on how, or perhaps the content and components of each of these sub-plans that are contained in the project planning. Okay, so items, purposes, specification of materials and resources, material resources. And note, there are committed and proposed resources. When you're developing your plan, there are resources that are committed, resources that are non-committed, they are just proposed. Committed resources are the ones you're currently using. Proposed are the ones that hopefully will be used in the project, but are not yet being used. So they are proposed in nature, right? Now, developing your financial plan, identify the quantity of money required for each stage of the project, that's cost estimation. Quantify the total cost of labor, human resource, equipment, and material, that's cost budgeting. Assemble an expense schedule as an outline of forecast spending versus actual spending. Outline of forecasted spending versus the actual spending. That will give you a basis for cost control. Okay, that will give you a basis for cost control. Then the next thing there is to develop quality plan. Defines what quality means in terms of the project, list clear and unambiguous quality targets for each deliverable, outline a plan of quality of activities which will assure the customer that quality targets will be met. Example, quality assurance plan. Then identifies the techniques used to control the actual level of quality of each deliverable as it is built. So the quality plan tells us how quality assurance will be done, how quality control will be made, tells us what are the proposed inherent characteristics that this product or project is supposed to have. Okay, that's what the quality plan helps us to do. Then the risk plan is more of outlining foreseeable project risks, outlining set of actions to be taken, formulated to both prevent each risk from occurring and reduce the impact of the risk should it happen. That is, there is risk identification, there is risk response planning, there is risk monitoring and control. Now, for the acceptance, provides and outlines the criteria for obtaining customer acceptance, assembles a schedule of acceptance reviews within which customers' acceptance will be sought, using acceptance form to review the deliverables produced and the level of customer satisfaction. The bottom line is each deliverable must meet or exceed customers' requirement. Each deliverable must meet or exceed customers' requirement. However, there is something we call gold plating in project management. And gold plating is perhaps trying to convince a stakeholder of a particular value, which is below the value, the actual value you're selling. So take, for instance, you want to tell someone that you have an iPad, and then this iPad does this, does that, does this and that. Now the person has the conviction that he wants to buy an iPad from you. And maybe he has told you that this new iPad, if you stand on it, it will fly. The iPad is so strong that if you stand on it, it will fly. That is no longer selling of value. That is now sugarcoating. And sugarcoating in a way is deceptive. Okay, it's deceptive. It's called gold plating. So you sell a product that appears to be beautiful on the outside, but when the customer starts using the product, find out that what you were proposing to him or her wasn't what was delivered. So in essence, when making project deliverables, we shouldn't sugarcoat or gold plate the product. Let it be as the standards demand. All right. Because there are a whole lot of people that sell gold-plated products. Just keep telling people several things. And at the end of the day, just find out that it was just a scam. And then the customer begins to feel terribly bad. Okay. Now, the next one is creating communication plan. Creating communication plan. Here, identify how each of the stakeholders will be informed. Identify the types of information to be distributed. Identify the methods of distributing information to stakeholders. Identify the frequency of distribution and the responsibilities of each person in the project team for distributing information regularly to the stakeholders. So if you go back to that, our stakeholder register, you find that we've already dealt with this particular part of this program. If you go back to your stakeholder register, it will tell you who your stakeholder is, what your stakeholder wants, how to communicate with your stakeholder, and all of those information. You can have them in your stakeholders register. The frequency of how to communicate or engage with your stakeholders. You can have them in your stakeholder register, and that will help you in managing your communications effectively. Then you have the procurement plan, which provides a detailed description of the product, that is, goods and services to be procured from the suppliers. Provide justification for procuring each product externally and not internally from team members. Provide a schedule for procurement. Identifies the process of selection of preferred suppliers, that is following the tender process. And then identifying the process for actual order and delivery of the procured products. That's the procurement process. Now, in the tendering process, as part of procurement, the tendering process, the identification of interested suppliers and selecting a preferred supplier to meet the procurement need. Suppliers are appointed and contracted through a tender process involving creating a statement of work, request for information from each potential supplier, and then choosing a preferred supplier, and then agreeing on a supplier contract for the delivery of the requisite products that have been agreed upon. So the tendering process in project management is a basic step followed in project management. Now, after you might have done all these things, you need to now perform what we call a phase review. Performing a phase review will help you know whether the things that were planned were actually done, and then it is what will give you the authority or the authorization to move to the next phase of the project. All right, so after each of these processes, you conduct what we call a phase review. Now, we have the phase execution process also, which includes coordination of people and other resources to carry out the project plan, characterized by physical construction of each deliverable by the project team and presentation to the customer for acceptance, and monitoring and controlling of activities, resources, and expenditure by the project manager required throughout the execution phase to ensure that the project's requirements are met. Now, when we deal with execution, we have processes or management domains that are concerned with execution, and we must build all these things with good alignment, right? So for project execution, we have the 10 management groups or the 10 knowledge areas that we must pay attention to. So we have risk management, quality management, integration management, procurement, cost management, schedule management, scope management, resource management, communication, and stakeholder management. Now, when we get to level 2 of this particular course, each of these programs here will be considered as each of these components of execution. We'll consider them individually as separate modules, and then we'll be able to deal with them as the project management 10 knowledge areas. Okay, so we have the risk, the schedule, quality, scope, integration, resource, procurement, communication, cost, and stakeholder management. So in the process of execution, we all need to know how to manage all of these things to ensure that the project is carried out successfully. Now, for building deliverables, it requires physical construction of each deliverable by the project team. Note, the actual activities undertaken to construct each deliverable will vary depending on the type of contract. For example, engineering, building development, computer infrastructure, business process or effects, all of these processes or all of these deliverables will definitely differ based on the project on ground. Now, for monitoring and control, you've done planning, you've done part of planning, you need to understand what you're executing. And also part of planning is to ensure that this project can be monitored and can be controlled. So just as a reminder, what do we do in monitoring and control? While the project team are physically producing each deliverable, the project manager implements a series of management processes grouped as knowledge areas to monitor and control the activities being undertaken. They include time management, risk management, cost, quality, communication, procurement, integration, scope, human resource management, and others. Project objectives are met by monitoring and measuring progress regularly to identify variances from plans so that corrective actions can be taken when necessary. Monitoring activities include integrated change control, quality control, scope change control, cost control, schedule control, performance reporting, and so on and so forth. And after you're done with your phase, for each of the phase, in this case, now monitoring control, you conduct a phase review. Should we move from execution to the next phase, or should we adjust? Okay. And then finally, you have your project closure, which gives us, it involves formalizing acceptance of the project or phase and bringing it to an orderly end. A successful project will have met its objective and be ready for formal closure only when the deliverables have all been completed and accepted by the customer, or when it is clear and established that the objectives or deliverables cannot be met. Then in that case, you can also close. So the project closure activities would involve performing a project closure, like winding up a project, and then you conduct a review on the project closing to know whether the project is actually due for closure or there are things that need to be worked on. Now, the activities under project closure involves a series of activities undertaken by the project manager, assessing whether the project completion criteria has been met, identifying any outstanding items like activities with issues or resources, producing a handover plan schedule to transfer the customer, and communicating closure to all stakeholders and interested parties. Listing the activities required to hand over documentation, cancel supplier contracts, and release project resources to the business. Note, these activities make up the project closure report. That's the activities inside the once it's listing. They make up the project closure report, which is submitted to the customer and or project sponsor for approval. Okay, so after you're done with your project planning, you monitor and control the whole procedure, and then you have done your execution. The next thing you possibly do is to review the project completion. But in all of this, our focus in this particular class is project planning. But while we are done with planning, we want to monitor and control and also review the project completion using the plan. Remember, the plan becomes the bottom line for everything we're doing. It becomes the blueprint, okay, that we use. Now, a review of the overall success of the project by independent resource, like an auditor. Success is determined by how well the project performed against the defined project objectives and conform to the project management process outlined in the planning phase. Okay. Project closure continues. The project is closed only when all activities identified in the closure report have been completed. The following questions are asked: did it result in the benefits defined in the business case? Did it achieve the objectives outlined in the terms of reference? Did it operate within the scope of the terms of reference? Did the deliverables meet the criteria defined in the quality plan? Was it delivered within the schedule outlined in the project plan? Was it delivered within the financial plan? All of these questions are the questions we asked before we could say performance had been delivered. The other one is to determine conformance. on the basis of compliance. To review, a review is undertaking of the level of conformity of the project activities to the management processes outlined in the quality plan. Results of the review, key achievements and lessons learned are documented in a post-implementation report and presented to the project sponsor for approval. Now, in quick summary of all of what we've done, project management is the application of skills, tools, and techniques and management processes for successful completion of a project. The project constraints are time, scope, budget, we have risk, and we have quality. Project have 5 process groups. We have initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and control, and closure. Project management has 10 knowledge areas: time management, risk management, cost management, quality management, communication management, procurement management, integration management, scope management, human resource management, and stakeholder management. Like I said earlier, by the time we get to level 2, we'll be studying each of these knowledge areas into 2. A project is closed only when all the deliverables have been completed and accepted by the customer. Now, before we go to any other thing, let's go back to review the project planning steps again. Let's go back to reviewing the project planning steps. Please, if you have any question for me, you can as well raise your hand at this point. Let's take those questions. Now, this is the sequence of work that need to be done in our project planning. The first thing is create a project plan, which gives us the scope of work that needs to be done, the work breakdown structure of what needs to be done. And from there, you create your resource plan, create your financial plan, create quality plan, create risk plan, create acceptance plan, create communication plan, create procurement plan, then have your contract suppliers information for easy management, and then perform phase review. So these are the basic steps that we need to follow in project planning. Now, please, I would like to know if there's any question for me. If there's any question for me before we wrap up for this section. Okay. But I trust we are still, all of us are still here. So if you can hear me loud and clear, please kindly type 11 in the chat room. If you can hear me loud and clear, please type 11 in the chat room. Please type 11 in the chat room. You can hear me loud and clear, type 11 in the chat room. If you can hear me loud and clear, please type 11 in the chat room. Thank you. All right, thank you. So I'm trying to get a template that we can easily use for our projects. And just give me a second. Let me get the template ready. And I will show also some of these templates. Okay, so let me run along with the other side of this program, so that when we come to this template, we can all flow at once instead of breaking it one after the other. So let me quickly look at, or let us quickly look at the next side of this program, which is creating a work breakdown structure. Let's quickly look at creating a work breakdown structure. Creating work breakdown structure. Creating a work breakdown structure. So this is going to be just a few minutes. Each of these sections will be just few minutes, then we'll get to focusing on the practical sections. All right, so I just have 10 slides here to just show us. Work breakdown structure. Some of these things, we've mentioned them during the discussions, but now let's look at the steps, how they are done practically, okay? When it comes to planning a project, the work breakdown structure is one of the first things the project manager has to work on. Breaking work into smaller tasks is a common productivity technique used to make the work more manageable and approachable. In this session, we'll explain what is a work breakdown structure, how to create one, and give you access to WBS templates. Please remember, we only provide the templates alongside with the study materials, all right? Okay. Now, by definition, a work breakdown structure, WBS, is a diagram that shows the connections between the objectives, measurable milestones, and deliverables, also referred to as the work packages or tasks. The main reason for a work breakdown structure is to make a project more manageable and quantifiable by breaking up the work into smaller tasks. Now we have what we call the work breakdown structure dictionary, which is the formal project document that provides detailed descriptions of key information for all elements in the work breakdown structure and must comply with the 100% truth. So give clarity. The 100% truth is for you to provide the absolute information that each of those breakdown, each of those tasks, each of those phases, each of those milestones need to have. So give an absolute information, not give a thorough information, all right? Give the accurate, most reliable, workable, practical information, okay? All right. So the 100% true requires that the WBS captures 100% of the project scope. So total clarity of what the project is all about, okay? Now, how about we call the WBS levels? The WBS levels are what determines the hierarchy of the WBS element. So sometimes you see WBS level 1, you see level 2, you see level 3, you see level 2.1, level 1.2, and all of that. It's just like saying 1, 2, 3, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1A1, sorry, 1AI, 1AII. It's just like that. So level 1, level 2, level 3, it just tells you the level of how the project has been broken down. So it identifies each of the levels. Are they at sub-phases? Are they at phases? Are they at sub-phases? Are they at tasks? Are they at activities? So that's what the WBS levels let you know. Now, however, we call the control accounts. They are used to group work packages and measure their status. They are used to control areas of your project scope. Project deliverables are the desired outcome of project tasks and work packages. Tasks, your tasks make up your work packages and therefore your project scope. Work packages are the lowest level of the WBS. So when you have a project task that you still further goes down to break down, just for the purpose of clarity, the least level of a WBS is called a work package. At the work package level, you don't need to break down the project again. That means this is the least level we can go. Okay, that's the least level we can go in breaking down this project. All right. Okay. Now, what are the components of a WBS? You have the tasks, you have the work packages, you have the deliverables, you have the WBS dictionary, you have the WBS levels, and you have the control account. So all of the definitions have been put behind. So all of these things are expected to be in a work breakdown structure. Okay. Now, can we just take a moment before we start explaining these types? Can we just take 30 seconds, stretch out, and then we'll be back. All right, I trust you. We've all had some good rest. Okay, so let me quickly reshare my screen so that everyone could see where we are. So now, quickly, let's look at the types of WBS. How are WBS categorized? Which best formats can you use to break down your project using WBS format? All right. The first we have deliverable-based WBS. Deliverable-based WBS. So it clearly demonstrates the relationship between the project deliverable and the scope. It clearly shows the relationship between the deliverable and the scope. All right. So look at this. You have the deliverable, which is construction of a house. So that's what we're looking at. And then you have some of the performance report there that this work is 100%. And then the budget is at $215,000, 500. So you have some information there detailing that. Then you have the level 1 of this project. Okay, the level 1 tells you the major phases of this project, the major phases. Okay, the major phases. Then the level 2, which now these levels are not telling you all of the elements of this particular, each of these phases of the WBS. So you have level 2. So you have your 1.1, 1.2, and it keeps going down. So perhaps this is the least level this can go. Now, if you look at this, it doesn't really give you the tasks, as it were. It only gives you a broad view of what the work is all about. For instance, level 1, internal. The level 1 operations, or the level 1 phases, you have internal, foundation, external. So it doesn't really tell you the work to be done, but it tells you the scope of the work, but it doesn't give you the tasks in each of those scopes. Then you come down to the next level. It tells you electrical, excavate, masonry work, plumbing, steel erection, and building finish. It doesn't really give you any work or perhaps any tasks under each of these. So it's basically deliverable based. So at the end of the day, we say we are done with electrical, we are done with excavation, we are done with plumbing, we are done with, so it doesn't really have to bother his head. The person using this doesn't really bother his head with breaking down the work further, because it's just a deliverable based project. Okay. Then the next one is the phase-based project. The phase-based project, just like the name is, the phase. So a phase-based WBS requires work associated with multiple elements be divided into work unique, divided into the work unique to each level element. So each of the elements have a phase, or each of the elements are divided within the phases. And when we talk about these elements, the elements could be tasks, could be activities, could be work packages, okay? So that we'll not be talking as though we are talking from the book. These are the elements we are talking about: tasks, work packages, deliverables, WBS dictionary, WBS level, and control account. Okay. So for instance, in a WBS, there is phase based on phase. So you see the phases are outlined. The phase 1 design, phase 2 procurement, phase 3 construction, phase 4 inspection, phase 5 turnover. And then you have the other elements under each of the phases. Design, they have permits, you have drawings. Level 2 of phase 2, you have procurement. Under each, you procure the electrical, you procure the plumbing, you procure the HVAC system. Then under construction, you have constructing the interior, constructing the exterior, inspections. So each of these things are broken down into phases. Even under each of the major milestones, you find out that they are still broken down into sub-phases, like permits. It doesn't really tell you the works to be done there. It doesn't tell you the work packages, right? Okay, so let me go to the next one of creating WBS. But before I go to this, I think there is one I'm missing. The last one I'm missing here is the WBS by work package. WBS by work package. Now, if you're running WBS by work package, first you have it on a phase. Second, you have the sub-phase or the task, and then you have the work packages under the tasks. So this is what I mean. Let me quickly use the whiteboard. So if we are dealing with a WBS by phase, oh, sorry, so WBS by deliverable, we are much more concerned on the relationship between the deliverable and the scope, all right? If it is by phase, we are concerned with breaking down the project into phases and then breaking it more into smaller phases. But by WBS by work package, WBS by work package. So I will take the instance of what we have there. So you have construction of a house. I'm just going to take a phase, for instance. Okay, construction of a house. Please note that this is not a well-defined statement anyway. Now, from construction of a house, we now move down to a phase. And perhaps let's say this phase is, let's go and find one of these. If one of these phases is foundation. Now this is a phase, right? This is a phase. Now from here, we now move down to saying, okay, on the foundation, what do we need? Maybe we need drawings. We want to now break this down to maybe more phases. We just want to break it down to more phases. Okay, so we say Dix. Want to break this down to more phases. Just follow me. So we have on the foundation, we have, okay, so get your permits, get your drawings, get your permits, get your drawings. get your permits, get your drawings. Maybe the next thing, get your drawings. So with this, we might not be able to say that this has the 100% rule, but to now make this a WBS by work package, we can now come down and further break. How do we get this permits? How do we get the drawings? How do we get the approvals? So we can then come here and say, okay, for this, okay, so these are the activities we have to do here. So activity number 1, so let's say activity number 1 is write to the development agency. That's 1. Pay the required dues. Get your payment receipt to the registrar of the agency. A request for permit. Now, if you look at this work now, this work breakdown or this work package now tells you how to get a permit. Right? You do the same thing for drawing, you do the same thing for other phases or other tasks that will come. So at this point of right development to the development agency, there is no other way you can break this down again. Okay, pay the required dues, you don't break it down again. Get your payment receipt to the registrar and then request for the permit. You can't break it down beyond this level. Now, when you're working with WBS by work package, it is easy for anyone and everyone to know how to go about with the work. So having established a collaborative work system, you need to know what kind of WBS you want to work with, okay? And also, I want to give a very simple, or will I say, let me make this very quick observation. Sometimes when we have proposed projects, and they say develop a concept note, we end up developing a proposal that gives all information. We'll follow the 100% rule to give all information down to the work breakdown structure. The work packages in the work breakdown structure. And then few days later, you begin to wonder, but this particular project, nobody's calling me and all of that. And this next thing is that you begin to see people carrying out the same project you would have done. The thing there is you would have given all the information required. So for some people that are not good with information management, they will tell you, okay, there is no need of having you since we already have everything you've given us. Or we already have everything that you want to do. So we'll go ahead and carry out the project and reduce cost. So if you want to maintain relationship and still get the contract, we advise that you use either WBS by phase or WBS by deliverable. And that could be the possible reason why we didn't go beyond that too. Okay, so you can use WBS by by phase, WBS by work package to carry on with your work. Now, before I proceed, do I have any question? Do I have any question on this WBS matter? Do I have any question? Okay, so if there is no question, I'll proceed to rounding up my section. Okay. So how do you create WBS? Number one, establish the scope. Number two, identify all project deliverables, create the project task, and create the WBS. And then have your work packages and also create your work register, your WBS dictionary. Your WBS dictionary is something like an appendix that gives detailed information of some of the things you used in designing your WBS. So if you assign symbols, acronyms, figures that you used in your WBS and you want to give explanations to them, you could use the WBS dictionary to do that. Okay. All right. Do I have any question? Any questions for me? Any question for me? All right, Mr. Fambach, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the brilliant presentation on the work breakdown structure. I don't know, with us in this humanitarian sector, we have what we call the project mapping. I don't know if, I don't know if you can throw more light on the project mapping.
Okay, so you're asking me a question. Okay, so let's go to project mapping. There is something we call, you're driving me to talk about level 2 in a bit, but it's good. Now, when you want to talk about mapping, project mapping is basically drawing or creating some sort of framework to show you the relationship from when the project started to when the project closed. So you now begin to talk about timelines within the project. So in dealing with mapping, you could use charts, if you were to use a software like the project management, Microsoft Project Professional, it's easier for you to get a project chart there to just give you a summary of what you want to do. Let me get a separate thing. So I have my project topic. So I'm going to be doing a whole lot of physical, a whole lot of drawing. So I have my project. Let me say project scope. So inside this project scope, I have my okay, before I go to project scope, let me first of all establish my project vision, mission, and all of that. So I have my project vision, mission, and all of that. So I'm trying to get how to use this faster. Okay, so let's say I have my project vision, mission, and everything I need to. Oh. I was trying to place this above the other, but it's like I'm not too. Okay, so here I have my project title with the vision, the mission, the objectives, right? And to a great extent, I have my business case here also. Business case. So I am driving all of this inside here. So with what I have here, I will develop my business scope. But the questions that my business mapping will now want to ask me is, how long will it take me to come up with all of this information that I need in each of these boxes? Now, from my project scope, I then go down to maybe from my project scope, I come down to talking of milestones / deliverables. And then from here, I may need to now break down all of this. If I have different milestones that are measurable, so I can say milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3, as the case may be, and begin to ask myself the question of how long will it take me to deliver this, with also the question in mind, what is the relationship of these milestones towards the project vision? Because everything we are doing has to be in tandem with the project vision. So the project mapping, in a way, gives you a very good snapshot of what the whole project is all about, keeps the vision before your eyes, keeps the major deliverables before your eyes, keeps the project timelines before your eyes, keeps the budget before your eyes. So it's just like a sheet or two that gives you a roadmap on how your project is expected to go. Okay, so sorry, I'm not too good with all of this drawing. I'm trying to make it faster, but the more faster I try to be, the more time I take. Okay, so you could have your project deliverable 1, then you have the same thing, deliverable 2, deliverable 3. So each of them, you're making a correlation on how they relate with the business case that have been established. Okay, dependent on the kind other information you may want to provide, you may go ahead to justify the duration, the cost for each of these. Okay, so you have your cost or your budget for each of those boxes, and you have your expected milestone. Now, one thing the mapping also helps you do is that it helps you to manage your constraints. It helps you to manage the project constraints effectively. As soon as the mapping is done, inevitably, anything that must be added to the project or removed from the project will have to be added or removed after the milestones or after the project mapping, after the content of the project mapping has been dealt with, except on cases where changes are inevitable, that you can say, okay, let's adjust this project mapping and all of that. But the project mapping shows you the roadwork from beginning, from the ideation phase down to the project closure. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm not too good being fast on this whiteboard. But Mr. Fombank, I trust you understood a little of what I said, or perhaps what I said doesn't make sense to you. Mr. Fombank.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's good, but for us, what we call project mapping in the context of organizations, humanitarian organizations and developmental organizations like the one I work with, the project mapping simply, to us, it depicts the deliverables and the cost of those deliverables. For example, you say, okay, for example, if you are running a child protection emergency project, you say, okay, rehabilitation of child-friendly spaces, and maybe in 15 communities, and it's going to cost this amount. And it falls under the activity.
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you again. I think the network is breaking. Sorry, sir, I can't hear you. Okay, sorry. Can anyone hear Mr. Fombank? Please, if you can hear Mr. Fombank, kindly indicate. Let me be sure it's not from my end. If you can hear Mr. Fombank, please kindly type 22 in the chat room. If you can't, please type 00. If you can hear Mr. Fombank, please kindly type 22 in the chat room. If you can't, please kindly type 00. All right, so Mr. Fombank, I'm sorry we lost your communication, but I think from what you're saying, I think we are still explaining the same thing. You say for what you people call project mapping is just majorly the deliverables, all right? That means the person that is delivering the deliverables has no focus on what the vision, the mission, and the objectives of the project would be, and that could be disastrous to the project. So to have a foundational map, a map that gives you concise information, you need to have in that map a justification of why these deliverables need to be delivered. It doesn't mean you're writing too long a statement, all right? So for each of the deliverables, first of all, the vision is not too long a vision. The mission is not too long a mission. The objectives need to be captured for us to know why are we delivering this. Like if you see in the third box I drew here, I said milestones and deliverables. The time it will take you to deliver the milestone, the cost it will take you. It's not just about the cost. It's not just about the time. You need to have the person delivering this, because this is the reason why in most projects, especially NGO projects, we've had these cases come up here severally. What we discuss with the stakeholders most often is just the project deliverable. And sometimes they don't even know why should they deliver it at this time, why should it be at this cost and all of that. And that's why you see sometimes you have delays, sometimes you have discrepancies. So to avoid that, you could have what we call the high-level requirement. High-level requirement. High-level requirements are just to justify or give you information to justify what you are doing at any particular level on the map. Okay, so you have your high-level requirement. These high-level requirements are not, it's not for you to be speaking too much grammar. It's just for you to say exactly what is expected in one phrase, one statement, one word that can capture what you want to do. And please note, when we say project scope in the context of project mapping, please, we are not asking that you should give us the whole scope. What we are looking at there are the critical parts, the critical. That's why I say you're taking me to level 2. Okay, now you're making me say things that might sound confusing to some people. Now, in the critical part, you're asking yourself the question, which of the tasks that, if when performed, will have the most valuable impact on the project with regard to the deliverables you're looking for? Those become the major milestones you're looking for. Okay, so in the project scope, for instance, say building of a house, you may not want to say, you may not want to give the whole complete outline, but you could give based on your what do you call it now? Based on your deliverables, your major deliverables, you can have foundation. Okay, then on the milestone, on the deliverable, you have, okay, foundation to be delivered in 12 days at so amount. Okay, that is correlating with what the scope is saying. Maybe the second one will not say, okay, laying of blocks and all of that. It takes just the critical parts, the high level requirements, okay, of the project. But inevitably, like I said, it tells you the most, or tells you the deliverables of the project at each of the phases, especially the critical ones, tells you the time it will take you, and tells you the cost it will take you. These are the basic information you have in a map. However, in a thorough map, you should have your vision, you should have your business case that justifies what you're doing, and then you have your high-level requirements in the form of critical parts. And then you have these deliverables in their different boxes, and then tells you, okay, from so time to so time, this is what we're going to do, and this is the cost, and all of that. So sorry, as you were speaking, we couldn't continue here. We couldn't hear you further, so we couldn't continue with the discussion. But primarily, what you said about your organization is still the same thing we are discussing. However, your organization is cutting off the establishment of the vision and the establishment of the business. The vision, the business case has to be established on that map, either as a footnote, as a head note. There must be somewhere it is found, or as key, it must be somewhere so that the person carrying out these milestones, coming up with these deliverables, we know exactly why he's doing what he or she is doing. Okay. All right, Mr. Fombank, I trust you understood that. So there is no conflict between what your organization is doing and what I'm trying to explain here. Okay, but the only adjustment we may have to make from your company's perspective is that the next time you have to create a project map, you have to first of all give the project title, give the project vision. Okay, the project vision could be in the form of the comprehensive scope statement. Okay, and then you have your critical parts to align with, and the critical part could be in form of keys. Just by the side of your map, you have your major keys. Okay, and then you have your major deliverables, the time it will take, the cost that will come with it. Okay, and that will give you your map. All right. Okay. Is there any other question for me? Oh, Mr. Fombank, he left and he's just joining. So I've just been discussing this with every other person outside of Mr. Fombank. Oh my God. So Mr. Fombank, the network threw you out, and I've been talking without knowing that you're out. Okay, so now that you're back, let me just recap what I'm saying. So Mr. Fombank, I would like you to unmute and let me be sure that you are with me so that network will not throw you out again. Please, Mr. Fombank, can you unmute? Okay. I hope you can hear me now, sir.
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
All right. So sorry that the network threw out. Okay, so you were saying that in your organization, the application of project mapping is basically about the deliverables, the time, and the cost, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the only addition we are making there is that, first of all, if you look at this drawing that we have on the whiteboard, you will see where we wrote milestones. And I said these milestones, you have to break them down. So milestone 1, how long is it going to take you and what is it going to cost you? Milestone 2 and all of that alongside with the deliverables. But the only challenge we may have if just establishing deliverables without interlinking them or having a face view of what this project is all about, it might cause this, some levels of discrepancy. And I said, in some NGOs, like some of the cases we're having here, you hear that, okay, we were responsible for phase 1 of this project, perhaps we're responsible for phase 2, but the people that were doing phase 1 didn't complete on time. And for that particular purpose, maybe our team was penalized or our cost, our budget was not released. Now, if the project mapping was concise enough, there is need to have the project vision around that project map, okay? Either at a footnote, either at a head note, either as a key by the side of the map. There must be, the vision must be somewhere around there. And then the project scope statement also need to be somewhere, either as a header, as a footer, as a key. It must be somewhere. The essence of this is to keep the communication around these implementers, because the person doing the deliverable 1 might not be the person doing the deliverable 2, but he has the map. So if the map does not contain these visions radiating in his presence often and on, he might end up having a lag for others who are doing other phases of this project. And then I said, under project scope, there we are not talking about you giving the whole information about your WBS. No. I said, in this case of project scope, what we need here is the high-level requirement. High-level requirement. So the high-level requirement may be the project scope statement in concise format, telling you the complete detail of this project in a line or 2, which could be on a header, on a footer, but where it will be obviously seen. Because that project scope statement, it is what justifies the reason for the deliverables we are making. And that project scope statement is creating the interlink between the deliverables and the project vision that we are carrying out. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes, I understand. I think it's clear. It's clear now. I understand very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next time your team want to go on the project, just advise them. Let's just add this header. Let's add this vision to this, and some of the project maps too. It is also good you give them information, since we've already established this is the timeline, this is the scope. If it is possible to have okay, I wanted to talk about project traceability matrix. Yes, project traceability matrix. Project traceability matrix is a high-level project map. And what project traceability matrix does is that it tries to create the link between the business case and the project deliverables and the business outputs that these project outcomes will be imparting on. So if you run it along that way, you find that that is an elongated map. Okay, it doesn't just stop at execution; it goes beyond execution. Okay, so the next time you're carrying on a project with your team, you could tell them, okay, why don't we add the project scope statement?
No, I think, yes, I think on my case, we have it because the mapping begins with the project coordinator, that is the person directly in charge of coordinating the project.
Okay.
And then we have the project title. It goes down now to breaking it now into the milestones, as you said. But it's not clearly, it's just like we list out the respective activities under each objective of the project. And then we allocate it now to the cost of that activity, and then we attribute an activity number.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So whichever way it is being done, it is still within the framework of what we're doing. The only thing that we always say, like we said in the other side, that project management principles are not prescriptive. The project management team need to find out what works for them and make sure that they cling to it, but let it be within the standards of project management, within the standards of project management. All right.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you have any other question? Because I am looking at us taking let me see if this my templates will open, and then I could explain one or two with the template. All right, please just a moment. I'm trying to get some of these my templates to open. I hope my Excel sheet has not expired, because it's just opening and there's nothing in it. Okay. All right, let me use this simple one that I've seen. Okay, so when you are giving your project mapping, you could use graphical representations, you could use tables, as the case may be, depending on the one that is most conversant with your organization. Now, if you look at what we have here, this is primarily what most organizations do. This is what most organizations do. So they give you the information that is required. So you have the project title, you have your tasks or your major deliverables, you have your priority, start time, end time, and then you have the budget for each of these, right? Then you have the project title for project 2, project title for project 3. But there is something very important that needs to be done. You see this side of where you need to provide information about this project, information about the high level requirements, information about the scope statement. It is very, very important. Okay, so this is a simple, you could use this for your project, let's say, which one now? For your project WBS breakdown structure. But in this case, since we are already adding time and title as time and cost to it, so you might use this for your default project plan. You could change, I think we've already used this before. You could turn this to phases, and then you have tasks. You could turn them to deliverables, dependent on the kind of deliverable you're using, the kind of work breakdown structure you're using. Expected deliverables. Okay, that's if you're just centralizing on just the map. Okay, you could turn it to be tasks, and then you have subtasks under them. So whichever one you want to turn it to, you can. But one of the major things that the map now puts on us is the priority of each of these milestones, the priority of each of these deliverables. Okay, it tells us the priority levels, the high, medium, low, and then this high, medium, low just carefully tells us of the constraint level of each of these projects. Okay, the constraint level of each of those deliverables that come along with each of those phases for which the project is being carried out. Okay. So you could have this. You could use this for your simple project planning. You could use this for your simple mapping. You could use it for your simple budgeting, because in budgeting, you need to have your tasks, you need to have your schedule, and you need to have your costs. So you could use it for your budgeting. You can also use it for your risk identification. This is how I mean. Having identified each of these tasks, and here you have notes. Under these notes, if you wish, you could turn them to identified risks. And then you could write each of the risks you identify in each of those phases, all right? And be able to use it exactly the same way. Now, this makes it simple for you to present your work, present your project plan, the technical side of your project plan, present it in a very simple form, makes you to present your cost in a very simple form, makes you to present your deliverables, very simple form, your milestones, very simple form, your deadlines and constraints, like you see here, you see start time and end time, you already have your constraint. Now, if you want to impute deadlines to this, then you can right click and then go to comment, insert of comment, insert. So you could insert, where's comment? Looking for comments. Okay, insert comment. So you can then insert comments on deadline of each of these particular phases. If it is a phase, if it is a task, if it is a milestone, you could put a deadline. Now, if there are relationships that exist, okay, let's assume that we are using this strictly for mapping. So I could use this as deliverable A. I could use this as deliverable A. Deliverable A. Now, if this project is to be done by another company outside of our own company, then I may have to, okay, let's assume I'm a coordinator, right? So, and then I have different companies doing different deliverables. So I may have to insert a comment, and say this project is to be done by XYZ consort, and the expected deliverables I want from them, I could write them down here. Deliverable 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as the case may be. Now, for each of those deliverables, we can then put deadlines that if you don't meet up with this time, this is what will happen. We could use comments to create those relationships. Now, one wonderful thing that this that you can do with this is to create collaboration. Let me quickly come to that. You could create an online collaboration. Okay, online collaboration using things like Zoho, Google Forms, which other one? ClickUps and all of that. But basically, let me show you something with Google Forms. So while using Google Form, you just need to have a unifying email address that you can share with your team, and then you could work with all of this. All of you can work on the same project from different directions. So for instance, let's assume I have a project and I want to do this on collaboration. A question has been trailing on measuring performance for virtual workers. There had been this trailing trailing question of how do we measure performance for online workers? How sure are we that they are not just sleeping and all of that? You could use collaboration tools to do that. Okay, so if I'm working on a project like this, so I could have a tool as Google Drive, and maybe I say this project is construction of house, and all that, whatever the case may be. This is not really where my main issue is. I will create this as vacant as I can, but this is where the main thing is. So when I go to responses, you see this point, that I'll be able to create a sheet that all of us can easily work on, so we can have information drafted in. So here we can decide to have it the way we want it. So I could say, okay, so this is my construction of house. So this is construction of house. Construction of house. Remember that this kind of statement is not absolute. It doesn't really say anything. I'm just giving an example. And then under this construction of house, I have my tasks. I have my start time, or perhaps let me say priority. Then I have my start time. And I have my finish time. Finish time. And I have, what other thing? I have my budget. Maybe I have some notes, comments, if any. Now, let's assume that Mr. A, like this kind of project we have here, we've already developed the framework for this. Let me just give you. Let's assume that we are working with this, and all of these people are different people. The person dealing with project A is different with the person dealing with project B is different with the person dealing with project C and all of that. Now, what I will do is that I could create here different sheets for each of them to work. So I could say this is for A. And I have here, this is for B. The same information, and I have here, this is for C. So everybody works on their own, But the most amazing thing is that what A is doing, B can see, D can see, everybody on the platform can see. The only thing we need to have is to have just one email that we can log into and then go to where the collaboration point is, and everybody works on there. Now, if I need to also talk about the percentage completion, yeah, I think this is very, very important, especially when different people are working on different projects. So if I have percentage completion, I could report here. Now, if project B depends on project A to finish before B will start, by the time I look at the percentage completion for project A, I will know exactly what project A is up to. Now, if project A is supposed to take 10 days and project A is already taking 8 days, and then percentage completion is not yet what I think he or she will finish, and I'm the one handling project B, and I'm supposed to start in the next 2 days, I can quickly raise a red flag. And how will I raise a red flag? I could decide to add some comments on the project of B, sorry, on the project of A. Notify him that, okay, I'm expecting you to do something fast so that I can. So you see here, I can add comments. Okay, so so you see there, I can add comments to this particular sheet on A, on project A. So I could add comment and then let A know that, oh, please, the next project that we are to do, we are to carry on from you. We're expecting you to round up in so time. Based on what is happening now, please, can you hasten up? Okay. So this forms a good collaboration point. If you as a project coordinator has different projects you're working on, and then there are different project managers handling them. If it is a project map that each of the deliverables that different institutions have to work on them, you could create a collaboration point. Let there be feedbacks, instant feedbacks. Everybody knows what is happening. Everybody gets to be on their tool, and everybody gets to be working. All right. All right. So this is just a little of what I would say. We've shown you the collaboration side of WBS. We've shown you how to manage collaboration. If you have different projects, if you're on a program with different projects and you have different project managers or project officers, you could create a point like this. Now, if it is a single project, okay, that maybe someone is responsible for scheduling, another person is responsible for budgeting, another person is, so you can also have the same thing here. So if the person responsible for scheduling, his work moves from task to finish time, that's where his work stops, all right? So you could have, okay, so this for scheduling, then another person is dealing with maybe resourcing and budget. So I could come here and say budget, resources, and then budget for each of these resources. There may be allocation, resource allocation, all right? Then I could give this to another person entirely. Okay, I could give this to another staff. The person who is meant to be working on this, I will allow him to work on it. Please try to use colors that will not blind your eyes while trying to work. So, okay, so this is better for me. And then maybe I have someone whose work is monitoring. Okay, monitoring, M&E. M&E. Okay, so M&E. M&E. So I want to assign that to someone. So how do I now go about ensuring that they are doing their work effectively? All we need to do is to create constraints, create a schedule of what they need to do. So let's assume that the person on yellow is supposed to take 2 weeks to get this work done. I could come to the comment section and say, please, Mr. So, please do remember. So if I have people who are already collaborating, so for instance, I could select the person's name, and if I want it to be assigned specifically to that particular organization or that person, then I could say assign to these people, right? So it doesn't come general to the comment section, but it goes to the person only, all right? So when the person comes on board, first of all, he receives it in his email or her email, and then comes on board and says, okay, this is what this person is saying. I need to work on it. These are some of the dynamics of collaboration you could use on Google Forms, right? Simple, easy to use, no cost associated, and all of that. Thank you for listening to me. So before I'm done, someone actually raised her hand. So let me hear from you. Ehizoje?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for this explanation. Although I'm not
for understanding the explanation.
Although I was not able to get it at once, but I'm sure if I go to YouTube, I will be able to understand it better, seeing I was in class.
Okay.
Okay, sir. So I wanted to ask what about Gantt charts? Gantt charts.
Okay, Gantt charts.
Gantt chart.
Okay. So for Gantt chart, you can build your Gantt chart yourself if you're using Excel. But if you're using Microsoft Project, the Gantt chart is part of the tools inside the Microsoft project. But we'll talk more of the project Gantt chart. Development of project Gantt chart, we'll deal with it more in level 2 when we deal with the project management software. But let me give you an example of what it looks like using Excel. The only difference with Excel is that you have to work out everything yourself. And it's good you have good knowledge of working with Excel with respect to project scheduling before going to Microsoft project, so that you will understand it. Okay, so let me show you a little example of what I have here on my screen. Okay. So please kindly confirm that you can see my screen with those little blue boxes and gray boxes. Can you please see them? Okay, Ehizoje, I know you have your army with you, studying alongside with you. Please
Yes,
kindly confirm that you can see. Okay,
I can see very well, sir.
Okay. All right, so on this other area, you see where my cursor is. These lines, these bars are called the Gantt chart. This is what we call the Gantt chart. Now, what the Gantt chart simply does is that it represents the duration of your work in the form of a bar from a particular time to a particular time within a date. Okay, within a date. For instance, you see here start Monday, 29th of January 2018, and then it is going to end February 2nd, 2018. So on a Gantt chart, that's what it just shows you. So from here, it shows you 29th, which is starting, and it runs through to the day it will stop, which is 2nd. So this is what the Gantt chart tells you. A Gantt chart creates that calendar integration to your work. Okay, it gives you that calendar integration. You can easily know when to start and when to end. And one thing with a Gantt chart is that you can simply print it and place it on your dashboard, on your company's notice board or dashboard, where everybody will see, okay, I'm supposed to start from here and end from here. Another person is supposed to start from here and end from here. Another person is supposed to start from here and end from there. So that's what a Gantt chart simply gives you privileged information. It draws the calendar integrations. But like I said, if you're using an Excel, you have to do more of these things manually. That means you have to be good. You have to have some levels of competency in use of Excel before you could get conversant with all of this. But like I said, all of us have to start from where we are. So we start from Excel. More of what we've done is that we've downloaded a whole lot of, we are not the ones that created most of these things. We just downloaded, okay? So we downloaded most of the charts. So it is easy for you to use them. Some of them have already been pre-designed, so you don't need to break your head. All you need to do is to fix what you need to fix. For instance, like what you're seeing here, by the time you get this in your Google Classroom as part of your materials, you don't need to touch anything here on the Gantt area. As it were, you don't touch the Gantt area. All you need to do is change your date, change your time, change your tasks, and just fix it, and then the Gantt chart will fix itself. Okay, so if you click on each of these, you see a whole lot of mathematical work they've done there for you to know where they are per time. Okay, and then there is a whole lot of work they've done. So it's just for us to just copy and paste and then use. Okay, so this is just a typical example of what the Gantt chart is, and you use it also for creating a WBS. You can use it to create a WBS. You can use it to create your complete work scope. All right, and schedule. All right, any other question? Please, Mrs. Ehizoje, did you get what I just said?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so
Yes,
let's start practicing with Excel, and then with time, when we go to the project management lead level, it'll be easier for us to use the project management professional, the Microsoft Project Professional, or any other software we may use at that time. It's easy, or it's easier that way. Okay, so whether you have your Microsoft project or your Excel, you can comfortably work on your schedules, work on your budget, and work on anything that needs to be worked on. All right. Any other question for me? Okay, so for those of us that are project coordinators here, if this explanation I gave on collaboration can be of help to you, or you think it will be a good help to you, let me see you type 1 in the chat room. If it makes sense to you, just type 1 in the chat room. Please note, this is not Google Forms. They are not, or Google Drive. They are not the only tools you can use. There are other tools, but for me, Google is free, and it will help you. So whether you have project up to 1 million, you can use the Google. You can use the Google form for your integration, for your collaborations, and you can quickly remind people without doubt. Just drop in their email. You tell them, okay, we are expecting for you to finish your own part of this project too, so that we can start our own. Okay, and nobody gets angry with anybody. All right. Okay. So if this collaboration makes sense to you, please type 1. Now, if there are other collaboration tools that you use in your organization that you think you can recommend, you can feel free to type them in the chat room, or you just raise your hand and tell us about them. All of us. There are a whole lot of collaboration tools, including Canva. Canva is a good collaboration tool too. Okay, so you have your project templates you can use on Canva. Now, if you have the Microsoft server in your system, Microsoft tools are also very good collaboration tools. Okay, but the use of Ethernet, like Google Forms, have made things like Google, Microsoft servers like redundant. Okay. Is there only one person that this particular collaboration made sense to? In that case, if it doesn't make sense to you, it means you have a question for me. So let me have your question. If you have a question, please let me have your questions. And if you don't understand what I said about the collaboration tools here, you could let me know. Okay. Okay. So, Mr. Farmbag, your organization, what tools do people use for collaboration? Or everybody works and then brings it to the project coordinator? You have an online tool you use for collaboration in your organization. Let me hear from us. Do we have collaboration tools we use, or we are still doing the manual collaboration kind? Maybe you work and then submit to your organization. Okay, so you say, I don't collaborate. Please, Mr. Lamin, kindly check your statement so that I can understand fully what you want to say. All right, Mr. Farmbank, which one do you people use there? How do you people do your collaboration? for now.
Okay, thank you very much. Collaboration at the level of amongst the project staff is done through, we have a communication platform where we do share our challenges on the field.
Okay.
And then we have collaboration at the level of stakeholders and other partners. We have a platform, an online platform, and sometimes we have on-site meetings where we brainstorm on the activities being implemented.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for reminding me something, because I may be misunderstood. Please, not that what brought us here is technical work. What brought us to talking about collaboration on this basis of Google and all of that is just on the basis of technical work. There are other forms of collaboration. Your WhatsApp group is a form of collaboration. Your Telegram group for your organization is a form of having a cloud collaboration too, okay? But technically, this could be a better platform for your collaboration for those who do technical work. Either you are involved in the use of Excel sheets, the use of Gantt charts and all of that. If you don't have a collaboration platform like this, what may happen is that you may have to work those things locally on your system and then import them to your WhatsApp group, and the person concerned will download, read, go through, and then save, and then import back to the room, and everybody will just be going just like that, okay? But if you have a standard system as this, it could help a whole lot. Save you cost, save you time. As you're working, your coordinator is seeing what you're doing, so he can correct you, she can correct you immediately without having to wait for hours upon hours when you're done send, and then he or she will work for the center and then send to you. Okay, so someone is saying, May says tools like Rike, G Suite, Canva, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, other good collaborative tools. Thank you so much. Google Docs, yes. In fact, everything that has to do with G Suite, Google Suite, okay, they are all effective collaborative tools that you can use. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So let's take our final class for today, and then we will be on our way to having good rest. So let's take managing timelines. I will take managing timelines. Where is that? Just managing timelines. Okay. So I'm going to take timelines, budget, and charter. Is it consecutively now? Consecutively, yeah. Then after that, we'll take our questions. So managing timelines. Like I said earlier, some of these things we've already discussed them. It's just to the icing on the cake, to make the icing on the cake, put the icing on the cake, and then we'll be done. Now, project timeline. No project plan or charter is complete without a project management timeline. Okay, and this project management timeline, that's where we actually generate our critical parts from. And those critical parts form most of those contributions that we have in the map. So how does this go? You have your map first, and then from your map, you have your scope. From your scope, you have your schedule. From your schedule, you have your cost. All right. Now, project management timelines provide simple visual overview of a project from start to finish and lead to increased work efficiencies among teams. A simple timeline is as simple as timelines appear when you see them on paper. Breaking down a project into an effective timeline may feel overwhelming, especially to novice project managers. So we shall be reviewing how to manage project timelines in this section. Now, what's a project timeline? A project timeline is an overview of a project's deliverables laid out in chronological order. It maps out what needs to be completed before a new task can commence and keeps everything ticking along nicely. Now, have a project management timeline is a detailed schedule of your project. It spells out all of the tasks involved and a deadline for each, so that your entire team can see when individual steps will take place and when the whole project will be wrapped up. Now, project timeline is giving you basically the project deliverables, the project deliverables, how they are laid out and how they are going to be accomplished. So it's more of showing you the map of the project. But the project management timeline tells you all of the tasks, whether they are deliverable based or non-deliverable based. It gives you all the details you need to know. So the project management timeline is more comprehensive, more voluminous than the project timeline. The project timeline could be, like I said earlier, 1 sheet of paper, 2 sheets of paper, 3 sheets of paper, dependent on how voluminous the project might be. That's depending on how voluminous the deliverables might be. Okay. Now, benefits of a project timeline: it reveals a clear path forward, maintains the big picture, ensures everyone has the same goal, keeps everyone in the loop, tracks what happens and when, prevents bottlenecks and holdups, and makes changes easy. Now, if you're using a collaboration tool like Google G Suite, for instance, without doubt, you can easily meet up with these things in agile nature, in agile format. Okay, within a split of seconds, you can actually achieve all of these things, okay, or enjoy all of these benefits. Now, what are the components of the timeline? You have your tasks. You have, now in this case, these tasks, the task we are looking at here are the deliverables, right? You have their due dates, the duration of each one, the dependencies, and then team members or assigned employees for them. So you have your tasks or the major deliverables, your due dates for delivering, the duration of each of those deliverables, the dependencies, how do they work? Does A depend on B, or does B depend on A before it will start? Does C depend on B? How do they work? And then people responsible for those tasks. Now, what are the steps to creating a project timeline? Number one, understand the scope of your project. Split the project into milestones, phases, or deliverables. Determine the task for each milestone and phases. Estimate the project time of each task. Establish deadlines. Estimate resources for each task. Assign tasks to your team, and then choose your project timeline software. You do have need for software, so you could use your any of these things mentioned, right? G Suite, Zoho, Canva, Microsoft Project, any of them that would best suit you. Excel. Okay, so this is principally just like a recap session. So this is just a recap of the template we just shared some few moments ago. So this can also be used as a timeline. You could have this as your project timeline. Just a moment, let me get the template out. So it's just the same thing we've been sharing, but let me get this, just a moment, please. Okay. Okay, so I trust you could see my screen. So you see project timeline, a typical example of a project timeline. It just contains the phases. So you see the phase, you see the activities, the task under the phases, and then you see the Gantt chart to represent each of the phases. And then you could also see how it goes ahead to separate the phases even from the Gantt area. Okay, so this is just a typical example of what your project timeline may look like. It doesn't really talk so much about cost. It just tells you the phases, the tasks, the time it will take, that's all. So it doesn't really bore you too much with the course. But in the case of a mapping, the mapping tells us how much is involved for this particular project. Okay, how much is involved for this particular project. Please, my sincere recommendation, when you get these templates, please always take your time to go through this help so that you understand how each of these templates work, okay? Make sure you take your time to go through the help just by the side of it so that you know how it works. Like I said earlier, these materials are not our sole properties. They are just fetched, outsourced materials, okay, for use. So it is not referenced in our name, okay, because we are not the owners of the materials, okay. And while using it, you could find other links to download further templates, okay. Some of the templates are at a particular fee. Some you could get for free, some are payable, okay. You pay to get them, all right, and they are not our properties, all right. Okay, and even if you choose to pay, it doesn't come to us. Okay, thank you. So this is just a typical example of a timeline, all right? So you have your, once again, you have your phases, you have your tasks, you have your Gantt chart representing when each one is starting and when each one is closing, right? Now, let me quickly go to the other side of my lecture, which is budget. I just feel like using the template to just show us how the budget is. So maybe, let me just run through it. By running through it, I will just show us the template. One thing I love about this template is that they already there for us to use. So all you want to do is to have them and use them over and over again. You could have them saved as default document, and anytime you use them, you save those documents you're creating for them and still keep them as default document so that you don't come back next time asking, where do I start from? Okay, I also want to remind us that when we come back for level 2, we'll still have to go through all of these things one after the other, but now in advanced form. Nobody's talking about formulas here. Nobody's talking about mathematics here. If you don't like mathematics, don't worry. We'll make it easy for you to understand. If you love money, then you're already a mathematician, okay? Okay, let me not say if you love money. If you can use money, you're already a mathematician. In fact, you're an advanced mathematician, okay? Because every day we do mathematics, all right? Take, subtract, add, multiply, divide, okay? So when we get to level 2, we'll just be picking some formulas, but we'll make them as simple as possible. Okay, Mahesh is saying something. So please, some groups were not able to present their project plan assignment last week, though it has been uploaded in the Google Classroom. I suppose that's okay. So for tomorrow, we will take our presentation. We are not done with that presentation. Everybody or every group has to present. Thank you for reminding me. But that one is just a settled deal. Nobody will run away from it. Okay, so quickly, project budget. 16. I love this. We are almost done. If we could take charter today, then tomorrow we'll just focus on proposal development. And by the time we are done with proposal development, everybody goes home and start preparing for exam, for those of us who want to take exam. All right. Okay, Mr. Fire, I personally sent you an email with the Google Classroom. So perhaps you need to check your email. I sent you an email, Mr. Fire. I sent you an email about 2 weeks ago. The first day we had our lecture, that same week, I sent you an email with the Google Classroom. So you need to check your email. Perhaps if you don't see it, just let me know. I will send another one to you. Okay. So project budgeting, everything we've been saying since, we've just summarized everything with all of the templates we've been looking at. However, for the sake of saying we covered, let's still go through this one. Project budgeting, every project, no matter how big or small, involves costs. It's very rare to have endless piles of money at the ready. So having a planned budget for a project is a must. As a project manager, you will be accountable for sticking to the project, so you need to be sure it's right. If you undercall the project, you will end up missing milestones, being understaffed, and having to do the work of shame to the finance department to ask for more money. If you overcall it, the project might not even get off the ground. So how do you get project budgeting right? Let's step through the process, starting with an overview of what project budget is all about. Now, by definitions, what is project budget? Project budgeting is determining the total amount of money that is allocated for the project to use. The process of determining the total amount of money that is allocated for a project to use. That's project budget. Now, project budget is the total estimated cost of completing each project activity over each phase of a project. Project budget template is a blank document that prompts a project manager to include a detailed estimate of all costs that are likely to be incurred before the project is estimated. Project budget management is the process of formally identifying, approving, and paying the cost or expenses incurred on a project. Project budget management involves using purchase order forms to state each set of project expenses, such as training, consulting services, equipment, and material costs, and so on. Note, it is important as it helps set expenditure expectations and is crucial or is critical in getting project approval. Ensuring funds are ready at the right time and measuring performance. It is a dynamic document, continuously monitored, reviewed, and updated through the project lifecycle. The project budget has been estimated by the project manager and or the project management team. The budget is an estimate of all the costs that should be required to complete the project. We use the words should be because if a project is poorly estimated, then the project will require more costs. And one thing you want to really avoid is always appearing before the finance department, account department. You need more money, you need more money, you need more money. Just take your time and make sure you get your budgeting right. Let them approve your budget and you go ahead with your project. Benefits of project budgeting. By knowing how much money is available for each project activity, you can easily pinpoint areas that need attention. The project budget helps determine exactly what skills you need for what length of time, which is especially useful when people are working across multiple projects. The budget is an effective management tool to use if you are on track to meet goals. It helps prioritize activities that can be completed within the resources available, helps promote future thinking and planning. Project managers who can deliver great outcomes while effectively controlling budgets have great career prospects. So integrity questions. Components of project budget have your labor costs, including employee wages, benefits, payroll, taxes, and overheads. Material procurement costs like goods, services, equipment, and supplies. Under each of these categories, the costs can usually be separated into two broad categories: fixed cost and variable cost. Fixed costs, these are the set for the project. Okay, these are set for the project rather, and will not change. So fixed costs do not change. Examples of fixed costs are things like cost of equipment, cost of rent, cost of leasing, cost of maybe land purchase. Some of them will not change. Purchase of vehicles, okay? For example, if you need a certain quantity of an item to deliver to a project, you have a firm quote from a supplier. This is a fixed cost. So even if it's a material, but it has already been calculated and it is fixed, consider the fixed. Variable costs, these change based on activity. For example, if you have a subcontractor working by hour, So things like labor wages, they are variable costs. Cost of communication, variable cost. Cost of risk management, variable cost. And some other costs that come up based on the activities within the project. Now, budgeting method, you have analogous estimating. Please, I recommend that when you get your materials, please take the time to read through these ones. But basically, I will explain them. Analogous is developing budget based on similarities. So maybe you did a project A, and then you have a similar project B, and you're drawing your budget based on what happened in A. We don't consider analogous to be an effective or very effective system of budgeting. It has its own loopholes. Okay, analogous, your friend did a project that resembled the one you want to do now, and then you use your friend's proposal to run the project. There could be some hiccups somewhere. That's example of analogous. Then the parametric is you being sure and definite. You're doing your researching on that. You're researching to find the right information for that particular project. Okay, so as to be able to get the right budget. Okay, why analogous is all about, please, you did this project the last time. Can I have your proposal? I just have something similar to it. Parametric is saying, no, though you did something similar, but go further to do more research and be sure that the information you're submitting, they're all updated. Okay. Then the top-down method is where a top-down method is more of analogous too. It's not that effective. A top-down method is where you start a project from the entirety of the project to the bottom. You know, there's this saying that we grow up, right? We grow gradually. But top-down says we crash it down. So it starts from the top and start breaking down the project. But for the bottom up, it starts from the least and start going in. So using the top-down method can overwhelm whoever that is using it. Okay, examples of projects is that this project is estimated at 500 billion. Oh yeah, go and break it down the way it's supposed to be. I was not there when you said it's 500 billion. So how do you want me to go and start breaking? So you're forcing me to create a budget of 500 billion. That's how a top-down works. So it looks at the project from the entirety, just gives the sum, and then you begin to break all of that. Okay. Then you have the bottom up. The bottom up is just the opposite. In the bottom up, you find the individual costs and begin to build them up till you find the final cost of the project. The top down is that you look at the entirety of the project budget and then begin to break it down. But in bottom up, you find the individual costs before summing them up to give you the total project budget. Okay. Then the 3-point estimate. 3-point estimate is the situation where instead of using one person's template or one person's similar project to do your work, you could choose to use 3. So you have 3 information parts. So you have from A, you have from B, you have from C, and then you analyze them, use the information you have from them to give you a better result. By the time we get to level 2, we'll look at the formula for most of these things, okay? The estimation formula for all of them, and then we'll look at them practically, how we will apply them without even knowing that we applied them, all right? Then the end value analysis as a way of budgeting is more of the actual amount of money you spent in running each task is called an end value. So let's assume that your planned value is 500 billion. And then by the end of the day, you are able to calculate all your projects, and then it ended up 300 billion. So we say your end value, the money you spend on the task to do the work, is 300 billion. But the proposed money or the planned value is 500 billion. So the end value can be used to also estimate projects. Okay, project budget. Now the budgeting process. You see, the time, the scope, the cost, and the budget, they have all interlinked. So what do? Determine your project scope, develop your WBS, determine the activity duration, determine the resources for each activity, determine the total sum, or determine the cost first before you go to total sum. Determine the cost for each of those resources you need for each of those activities, and then determine your total sum, determine your management reserve. By the time you add your individual costs together, it will give you a total sum. By the time you add your total sum to your management reserve, it will give you your project budget estimate. What do we mean by management reserve? Management reserve are those resources you make available in cases of contingency, risks, and all of that. Okay. And by the time we go to level 2, we also deal with that part of costing, manage how to go about management reserve, developing management reserve. But more of the management reserve, you see 5%, you see 10%, you have 20%, 25%, 50%, dependent on the risks factors associated with the project. So the higher the risk associated with the project, the higher the management reserve for that project. Okay, and the lesser the risks factors, the lesser the management reserve for that project. Okay. Now I have an example here. So this is a typical example of what your project budget template looks like. We'll also provide this in your Google Classroom for those of us who find ourselves there. So you see an example there. So you see your WBS 1, 1.1, 1.2, 2, 2. You see all your control accounts there. Then you see your tasks, you see your phases, you see your tasks in each of the phases. Then you see the project owners, and then you see your labor hours. And then at the end of the day, you see your fixed costs, and then you see your actual costs. You see your budget, you see your actual cost, and you see deviations. Deviation only arise when the project is in process. If the project has not started, we won't be able to measure deviation. Now, let me use the template that is, open to work with. Project, okay. So this is a typical example of a project budget. So you see your tasks, see your subtasks. It could be your phases and then tasks, as the case may be. You have the number of hours you're working, the rate you're going to pay the person per hour. Now, this number of hours you're going to be working multiplied by the rate would give you the total amount the person is going to be earning for the particular period he or she is going to be working. Of course, project management rates are measured in hours. Okay, it's measured in hours. Okay. So you could have this template too. You have your fixed cost, you have your material cost, and then everything aggregating in this area is based on whatsoever we're doing, from the labor cost to the fixed cost. And then this budget actual costs under or over, that's talking about the deviation. This under or over is just talking about the deviation. Are we on budget? Are we under budget? Are we above budget? So that's just what it's talking, under or over. All right. And then you have all of the information down, 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 down. So you could use simple templates like this to fix. Also, do not forget to read the help on how to effectively use this. All right. Okay. Where do I start? Where will we stop? Now, we are gradually rounding up. How many minutes do we have to fall? So I have less than 30 minutes to go. Any question for me? Any question for me? Any question for me? Okay, so while we expect questions, please, for the groups that have not made their presentations, Please be rest assured that tomorrow you have your presentations to make. All right, Mr. Fombank, please kindly unmute and let's hear from you.
Yes, thank you very much. Looking at this template, I see at the top, you have budget, you have actual, you have deviation. The deviation that I don't understand, can you help us with some highlight?
All right, thank you so much for seeing that. Okay, so I said deviation only occurs when this project has started. Okay, deviation simply means, are we working in line with the budget? Are we under the budget? Are we over the budget? So the deviation in this case will give you the difference between the actual or the budget and the actual. That's what the deviation will give you.
Okay.
By the time you subtract actual from the budget, that's what the deviation will give you. So you see that some of the deviations, some already read, that means that it's over, over. We are running over the budget. Okay, white some are still on black, telling you that you're under the budget or you are in line with the budget.
Okay, thank you very much. We also have what we call the BVA, the balance versus actual. That's good.
Sorry, say you call it what?
BVA, balance versus actual, to give.
Okay, balance versus actual. Okay. 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 All right, thank you.
Since we are using the subsystem. Yeah. Because it's generated through the subsystem.
Okay, like I was trying to say, this is just a simple budget template. There are advanced budget template, and also according to organizations, there are different budgeting tools they might use. Some might decide to use schedule variance, some might decide to use cost variance, some might decide to use end value, some might decide to use parametric estimation models. So whichever one they want to use, at the end of the day, what we just want to find out is what is being planned versus what is being spent. What is the relationship? What is the correlation? Okay, so whether we're using balance versus actual, parametric modeling, schedule variance, cost variance, performance to complete performance index, there are several ones people use. By the time we get to Microsoft project, you will see a whole lot of them. So it's not left for us to find out which one is the best one. But at this beginning stage, please kindly use this one you're seeing here. At least it's not confusing. For everyone in this class, please, to avoid questions when you go for your presentation, and then you begin to say, we use parametric modeling. I say, what is parametric modeling? You now begin to explain yourself. You don't need all of that. For your simple presentations, please use simple templates as what we have here on the screen. Okay. All right, do I have any other question or any other observation so that we can all look at it together? I think we are going to, I'm done for today's class. So let me allow us to go and rest. Tomorrow we do charter, we do proposal development. So everybody should prepare very well for proposal development. Okay, everybody should prepare very well. Please, in short, okay, my audio is very low. I'm trying to get the attendance so that every one of us will sign. Okay. And also at the same time, for those of us who are yet to make the requisite payment, for those of us going for examinations, please, if you're yet to make the requisite payment, please be reminded that by June 11th is the deadline for commitment. So please ensure to do the needful. That's for those that are going for exams. So I'll be very glad if this class ends tomorrow. How many of us will be glad if this class ends tomorrow? So that we can go and rest and take up other challenges. If you'll be glad that this class will end tomorrow, can I see you with your 5 in the chat room? If you'll be glad, no more extension. We are not interested in extending this lecture again. Just type 5 in the chat room. However, the attendance is coming in the chat room now. If you'll be glad that will end tomorrow, please type 22. If you want the class to continue beyond now, boy, you really want to continue that one. Okay. All right. The attendance has been posted in the room. Please, let's quickly take our attendance. And if there are questions, let me take them so that we can go have a rest. Someone is asking, for those who are not in group, please, you will have your group by tomorrow, because today we don't have any workshop. We don't have any workshop today, so you have your group in tomorrow. Okay. Do I have any question? Okay, so let me recap, because someone is asking a question now. Let me recap. As we end this program this weekend, next weekend is your mock test. That's next Saturday is your mock test. So you are expected to pay for your materials and your mock test. Your material is 10,000. Your mock test is, I think it's another 10,000 or so. Please let me get, okay. Most of this information, I think we've shared them in the chat room over and over again. Let me see if I will find. Okay. So for your study material is 10,000 or $35. Your mock test is another 10,000 or $35. So for materials that mock is 20,000 or $70. Now there was a question that Mr. Fombank asked me last week. I think that question, the error was from some of the things that we adjusted here on the dollar. Okay, your fee for dollar is $179, but what is represented here is $175. So you can find a way to break it down yourself, but the least payment you can make if you're outside of Nigeria to access materials is $35. For exam, sorry, for mock is $35 as well. Okay, so if you wish to pay the $179 at once, you can go ahead. If you wish to pay $35 first, you'll go ahead. If you wish to pay $70 first, so that you have your study material and your test, you go ahead. Whichever one that is best for you, you can go ahead. Whew, God, you're good. All right. So thank you so much for today. It has been a wonderful time, and I trust we learned something. Tomorrow's class, hopefully, will be our final class. So we have two things just to do tomorrow. The project charter, development of the project charter, and then project proposal development. Those are the two things we'll do tomorrow. So prepare yourself plan yourself and make sure you have a good rest and join us tomorrow. Tomorrow's time is 4 p.m. West African time. 4 p.m. West African time. That's if you're in Nigeria, 5 p.m. If you're in Ghana, 3 p.m. If you're in Cameroon, then Cameroon and Nigeria shares the same time zone, so 4 p.m. If you're in Gambia, please find your own commensurate time and join us. Okay. At this juncture, we'd like to say a very big thank you to everyone. If you've not taken your attendance, please do so, take your attendance, and see you tomorrow by 4 p.m. Nigerian time. And please, let's always pay attention to the chat room and to our emails should there be updates. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful, wonderful evening.